Ask and you shall receive. Hi, here's my experience moving out on my own without any assistance at all from family. A little bit about my experience is that I realized that some people move out because it's the norm. Like they're starting college or they want to level up their adulting and have a place of their own. But for me, I had to move out of necessity. The place that was supposed to be my home wasn't exactly conducive for my well-being, and it wasn't healthy staying there. So emotionally and mentally, moving out was honestly so freeing. And it was one of the best decisions that I have ever made for myself. The things that were at the top of my mind was that I needed to find some place that was safe, some place that was practical in the sense that I could actually afford the rent and the utilities and the cost of living, as well as it being reasonably near the places and the services that I'm going to need to avail. And I also needed it to be near work. As much as possible, I did not want to waste so much time in traffic commuting because it was Manila and traffic is insane there. So I wanted to lessen the stresses that I'm going to end up facing every day. The habits that I've built and that I've practiced religiously and have benefited me are keeping inventory. You can make a spreadsheet out of this and go ahead and list all the items that you normally use and need to survive and then quantify it from there. Or you can just simply make lists on pen and paper. Good old pen and paper. The main things that I had to keep inventory of were my food, toiletries, shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, and the like, and cleaning supplies. This includes your dishwashing soap, laundry detergent, fabric softener, disinfectant, toilet bowl cleaner, and so on. It will make your life so much easier to keep note of all these things. And this is something that I always have. It's a pet peeve of mine when there's no dishwashing soap, there's no sponge. So I always make sure to stay on top of all the supplies that I need. And the easiest way to do that is to just simply keep an inventory of everything. So that before you run out, you're already aware and you're able to replenish on your stocks. I keep inventory by listing down all the items or supplies that I normally use and plotting those into a spreadsheet. In the workbook I have for my household inventory, I have 3 spreadsheets dedicated to food, toiletries, and cleaning supplies. This is my redesigned spreadsheet, so I'm just basically transferring data here. But the first one that I finished was my toiletry spreadsheet because this is the thing that I need to be buying soon within May. I keep at the very end of the spreadsheet a legend for the colors and what those mean in the need for restock column. I keep the criteria, which is part of the formula that I use when I compute for what I'm gonna budget now and what I need to budget soon. And then I also keep a note on the side to tell me that this budget isn't yet inclusive of shipping or transportation costs. Now through this spreadsheet, I can easily see the supplies that I have to replenish and the budget it's going to cost me, as well as how much I need to prepare soon for my other diminishing supplies. The second habit that I built was taking note of all the services that I needed. This comprises of taking note of the trash collection times, for example, and where the garbage truck is going to pass in order to collect the neighborhood trash. Another thing that I also had to take note of was maintenance services. For example, sometimes your faucet is going to stop working, or you accidentally break the handle of your window. You're going to need to know who you can contact in case those moments happen. And if you're thinking, dagdag gastos lang yan, well, if you don't fix those little leaks, they actually end up adding to your bill in the month and you're going to suffer from that. Also, it's terrible for the environment. Think about that. Another service that I had to take note of is where I could get my laundry done. Some condos, even if you do wash, or some apartment units, Some apartment units, even if you do wash your own clothes, won't really have a proper balcony or the like for you to hang and dry your clothes. So it doesn't really hurt to avail of laundry services, which don't have to be expensive. And a tip that I picked up on is to not only have a laundry place that has self-service servicing available, but to also have pickup services available, which comes in really handy if you're on duty. And all you need to do is pick up your phone, send a text, have the laundry pick up your laundry. And by the time you get back from your duty, you've got your clothes nice, fresh, clean, and folded. If you're one of the people also that's like too busy to clean for yourself, or you want something more thorough than your own cleaning could possibly provide, it would also be helpful to look into cleaning services. Another habit that I picked up on is daily tidying. When you're busy at work, sometimes because you think, oh, I'm gonna pick this item up, I'm gonna put it back later, it's not gonna make that much of a difference. But especially when you're swamped with work, you won't notice it, but slowly, basically, your whole unit is going to end up really cluttered. And you might think that's not a big deal, but honestly, overall, it not only helps brighten your mood when you have a relatively clean or tidy place, but it's also better for your health. I also do a weekly deep clean, and this is where the actual disinfectants come out. Go ahead and deep clean that nasty toilet bowl, deep clean the bathroom, disinfect the counters. I do that every week, usually Saturday or Sunday if I'm back from field. If I'm not, then whenever I get back, and it's been more than a week, I do a deeply week. I go ahead and I do a deeply... What? A weekly deep clean. Inclusive of this would also be changing towels every week and also changing bed sheets and pillowcases. I also plot all due dates and make sure that I have reminders on my calendar. So I never miss a bill due date, and I pay my bills online. As much as possible, I don't see the point of lining up. Not only is it inefficient and use time that I could have used to do something else, but it's also just easier. It's going to be less stressful, and you won't need to make so much contact with different people. You can pay your bills online through e-wallets like Gcash, Coins.ph, or PayMaya. You could also pay your bills through your bank as long as it's enrolled through its online banking services. And then you're good to go. The receipts and the proof of payment do get emailed to your email address, so there's nothing to worry about. How I handled money when I first moved out was that I was stricter than usual. I wasn't yet fully familiar with the day-to-day living expenses, so I went ahead and erred on the side of caution. Different areas will have differing costs of living, and I did not spend really on anything else but the bare necessities on my first few months of moving out to a completely new city. Another thing I did was that immediately after I got my net home pay, I automatically set aside the money needed in order to pay for bills, which is easy when it comes to your fixed expenses like your rent and your phone bill, since you more or less know the exact amount that you have to put aside every month. But for other things that are variable and the bills can vary from month to month, like your electricity and water bills, what I would do is I would always set aside a little estimate with an allowance just to make sure that I can always pay the bills on time. And lastly, I set actual budgets after finding the pattern of my expenses, which I had strictly adhered by. To consistently record, I'm linking the video on how I do this above. Because honestly, when you're on your own, there is no safety net. There's no mother or father that you can call to come save you in the event that you default and can't pay for your bills anymore or can't feed yourself. So it really comes in helpful to be prepared and to prepare projections through budgets beforehand, just to make sure that you meet your financial obligations and you have all your needs met. So you don't go through periods where you can't eat, because that's just... The problems that I encountered when I first moved out was that, first and foremost, a lot of the things that I needed wasn't available to me yet. just because when I first moved out, I was legitimately starting from scratch. I only had a backpack with me, and in that backpack were some clothes to wear for the office, sachets of shampoo and conditioner, my phone and charger, and then 2 notebooks and pens. The first night that I actually slept in the unit that I moved to, I didn't even have a blanket. And I also didn't really have like a proper pillow to use, amongst other things. I also did not know where a lot of the services that I needed was. Manila was definitely more complicated to go around compared to where I'm from in Baguio. In Baguio, all I really need to do is to ride one jeep, go to town, and then just walk around because the services that I need are there. DFA is in SM. What else? Paying bills, you could do that in SM. The market was like literally in town, and just everything I really needed was just there within that town area. Even the BIR Regional District Office, you could easily find it in Baguio. But living in Manila was so different. Like, it's bigger, it's more complicated to go around. There were so many ways to commute also, which just confused me. There was like the LRT, MRT, jeepneys, taxis, the P2P stuff too. In Baguio, it's just really straightforward. Like, if you want to commute, go ride the jeepney. And if you want it to be a little more private, then go ride a taxi. And again, everything had a central point in Baguio, so it was less confusing. It was also a struggle for me because when I was acquiring things and I had to move, I couldn't really lift everything on my own. And then I also only had a bunch of eco bags to pack my things into. A problem also that I encountered was that different buildings are going to have different rules. For example, the place that I was at didn't allow cooking, so you don't accidentally burn your unit down, which initially was not a problem for me because prior to the pandemic, I was just always at work. Heck, I wasn't even in Manila majority of the time. I'd be in field work from Monday to Saturday or Sunday sometimes. But when the pandemic came and there was no more office or field work as much as there was before, that's when the problems started setting in of all the condo rules that I never really had any issue with until the lockdown started happening. So how did I solve these problems that I had been facing? Well, I think it's really helpful to get an apartment that is either semi-furnished or furnished. Now, upfront, these are going to be more expensive than bare apartments, but it's also going to be more convenient. You won't have to worry about buying or packing your own cabinet and then having to move that cabinet out when you want to transfer places. Having a refrigerator also already available is really, really handy. And then for the rest of my things, I budgeted until I could buy what I need, prioritizing items that were essential to my basic needs. So for example, between an iron or a stovetop, I would definitely get the stovetop first. I prioritize buying things like my kitchen utensils, my spoons, my forks, my plates, my mugs. Then the rest would follow. When you're starting on your own completely from scratch, no help from others, there's really no shortcut to this. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first. In order to solve the fact that I wasn't familiar and constantly confused with how the layout of Manila was, I basically walked around to familiarize myself with the area. But obviously, I can't walk around everywhere. So that's where the apps came in. I would use Apple Maps, Google Maps, and the like to help give me directions going from one place to another. When I'm going to commute though, I would use this app called sakai.ph. If I'm pressed for time, I don't have the time right now to commute and try to manually find things, I'd make use of Grab, which is what I did when I had to go to the Makati BIR RDO. And I had to get that done during my lunch break. So I only had 1 hour to get there and then come back, which is really not going to be possible if I had to walk and commute at the same time. Then the cheaper alternative also, and if you don't have anywhere else you really need to go to, so you don't mind smelling like smoke or pollution, is Angkas. I'm not really sure if Angkas is still in service, but prior to the pandemic, if I'm going out with friends at night and I'd like to get home quick and it's rush hour, I would just go ahead and book an appointment with an available motorcycle driver and I get home pretty fast. I smell like smoke, but it doesn't matter because all I really need to do is just shower and get to bed. For not being able to lift things all by myself and having actual difficulty like moving around, the best thing that happened to me was I had a friend, hi Ivan, she's so great because she really did help me around, and like I really cannot lift for the life of me. So at least I had her, but if you don't, then honestly, it would be worth your while to go ahead and hire people to help you. I did hire a driver with a big car so I could put my stuff in it, and that's so much more convenient than having to lug things around and trying to commute with it. Also, to solve my little eco bag fiasco, I went ahead and I bought reusable moving boxes. I'm not exactly sure if these were intended for. As much as possible, I didn't want to go for plastic boxes. However, they are waterproof, they are lightweight, and they are what's readily available. I bought my boxes from a brand called Mega Brand. I bought it in the SM department store, and it's made things easier. Lastly, the condo rules. Now, you could find workarounds for this without breaking your contract, but obviously, if the rule is as straightforward as no dogs allowed, and then you're trying to bring in a dog, that's not gonna really work around. But for me, how I dealt with the whole no cooking thing was I had a rice cooker gifted to me by Jassy, thank you. And I also had a water heater. Now that water heater wasn't like a kettle, so I could do things like cook soup or oatmeal in my water heater. And then also I got acquainted with how I can cook using a rice cooker. I remember when I was a kid and then we'd run out of gas, sometimes we'd literally just plug in our rice cooker, put some oil, and then cook sausages when it gets hot enough. And that became my friend. So my rice cooker was used to cook things like sinigang, hot pot, stir fry, of different vegetables that I could find. And that's how I worked around the whole no cooking rule. Since basically what they're just really against is using fire. I'm not gonna over glamorize this and say that, wow, this is one of the best decisions that I've made. It definitely was not easy, especially if you're really just starting from zero. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. I like to keep it real.
Here's some tips that I've picked up on as I've lived on my own. I'm going to attach screenshots so that you can just screenshot for reference. So number 1, when viewing for apartments, check first if you get good signal or data signal on your phone. That way, if the Wi-Fi fails, at least you can use your phone's data without a problem. Number 2, photograph the apartment exactly as it is when you first move in and make note of any damages or maintenance issues and make it known to management. Number 3, it'll make your life easier if you're within walking distance to a market or some sort of food store that can supply either readily available food or ingredients. Number 4, check how thin the walls are by pressing your ears to the wall, and if you can hear your neighbors or the commotion in the hallway, that might be a problem when you're trying to sleep or work at home. Number 5, if your building has a lobby, you can keep ordering online and having the lobby receive your items for you while you're away on duty. I always make sure to pay beforehand and have non-cash on delivery packages. Number 6, any building higher than a second or third floor needs an elevator, and if it doesn't have, transporting items in small amounts won't be a problem, but having to constantly go up and down to bring laundry, groceries, and packages gets too tedious. Number 7, if it smells outside, then no amount of cleaning you do inside will make much of a difference. Closing windows helps, but air can get stale inside. Number 8, I usually go home late at night from the office, so having well-lit and relatively safe neighborhood roads is a must for me. Having CCTV in or around the building is also handy. Number 9, I usually take the rent of whatever apartment I'm looking at and multiply it by 3. If I can still afford the price, I go for it. Extra precaution is taken so I don't default on payments, and also, when you first move in, at the very least, management will ask for 1 month advance, 1 month deposit. You can have your deposit back when you settle all your utility bills and leave without any damages to the unit at the end of the contract period. And number 10, having a good sized sink to do dishes and the like, as well as a good flow of running water, should be non-negotiable. And here's a little list of the things to have in your own place. This is basically the bare necessities that I've thought of at the top of my head. Take it and add and subtract as need be.
I hope you found this video insightful, and if you did, feel free to like and share it. Till next time. Ay, nako, ang ingay-ingay ng traffic. Nakakainis.